Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military, veterans, and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. As you go over and see, it's the beginning of August. Hope everybody's going well, and we're keeping fellow Delawareans and North Carolinians in prayer and their thoughts during the hurricane that we just had in tornadoes. So hopefully you're okay. If you're listening, we hope that you're okay. If you're not listening, we hope that you can go over and recover. Let's go jump back into content. So, August is Transformation Month at War Hero to Superhero. We have a theme each and every month, and each of our messages are based on a mega theme. So, we just chose transformation for August because we are approaching a new world in roughly 30 days with school starting. A lot of states are going over and deciding, are we going to go in person? Are we going to go online? Are we going to do a hybrid? As we heard in Delaware, it sounds like they're going to a hybrid. So each and every day is going to be looking different. So as the nation is transforming a little bit at a time, let's go over and transform our lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. Why wait for everybody to make that transformation for us? Let us go over and do that. And we're thankful that you guys are watching us live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Easy Way wall. This week's always the first week is focused in the bedroom. And specifically, we're focusing in transformation in your mouth because this happens. The average man speaks 50,000 words, and ladies speak about 100,000 words. My question for you is, are you edifying or are you destroying with your 50 to 100,000 words? Something for you to go over and think about. And I want to give myself as a case study for you to go over and glean off on how to go over and grow and what lessons that I learned that I wanted to pass on to you for you to go over and thrive in this transformation, even some questions. So for me, I went over and I grew up in a home when I was in the living room with a mom and dad, a brother and a sister. I always heard most of the time unedifying words. The words were very destroying. By the time I was 8 years old, I was looking at the marriage plate, just like you can see the mirror back there. I was looking at this marriage plate that my mom and dad had. And by 8 years old, I was knowing that a divorce was going to happen. It wasn't an if, it was a when. So the words kept destroying on a regular basis, hearing it from my sister, hearing it from my friends, hearing it from my mom and dad in that particular regard. And there was another 6 years of being on pins and needles and hearing those negative words constantly going over and coming in, destroying back and forth. The words finally ended at 14 years old, the day before I turned 14, when my mom drove us to the mall. The car died. Me and my mom went up the hill to go call on the payphone. And I know for some of you, you don't know what that is and exists. Just go Google a payphone and go over and call my dad to go get assistance. When we saw my dad in the tow truck, that was the last time I would see my mom and my dad and my brothers and sisters all together in one place. And that wrecked me. I didn't show it, but it went over and wrecked me. And there was also many other things that came out of that, sexual trauma and all these other types of things. Moving on forward, 4.5 years of just performing the dance, just going over and dealing. And when I go over and when I was in school, most of the time I was using edifying words. Occasionally I would go over and use destroying words, but I wasn't as close to them as anybody else. So I graduate high school, I go into the military, and the military is very sarcastic. We all understand that, and depending on what unit if it's more maintenance or typically if it's more guys or more gung ho, it's sarcastic, and we take it as a normative, saying that hey, it's just funny and everything else. But to be honest and open, those words are destroying on a regular basis. And again, when we're in the boardroom, when we're in the war room, those words kind of quote unquote bounce off us. It really doesn't, but we say it does. Then I went over and got married to a beautiful, smart, intelligent, sexy woman at age of 25. And I'm thinking to myself that I'm mature enough to go over and have a marriage, to have an intimate, transformational marriage that's edifying, to build one another up. I definitely wasn't. all those words that I kept going over and hearing and seeing and thinking and sometimes expressing came out the most inside the bedroom, inside those four walls. And they spewed out to the living room on a regular basis. And I did it so covertly that a lot of times that my wife didn't realize I was doing it. And I'm ashamed of this, but this is what I went over and did. I did it so slick and so smooth because I love to go over and speak and I love to be right on a regular basis. And I love to have control because of all the things that didn't happen in my past. And I was trying to get that within now this new bedroom, living room, boardroom configuration. Because when you're a kid, you don't have control of much of the living room. You have kind of control of what your thoughts and feelings are to a certain point. At that point, I really didn't. And then when you're at school, you're getting told what to do. So you finally get this freedom, and now you're establishing a bedroom, living room, boardroom ops. And the thing is that we're scared to go over and to give the destroying words at our work center because there's exact consequences to it. And in the living room, you're like, well, you don't want to do that to the kids. They're young and everything else. And we kind of perform. But in the bedroom, game is on. We can do it consciously or do it unconsciously. And I did a mixture of both, depending on the season. Again, I wasn't proud. I did this for 7 years. It wasn't until one night, another covert chewing, which I wasn't proud of. And then my wife spiritually kicks me in the nuts. And 3 to 4 hours of an argument and conversation and crying and everything else destroyed me that night. Went back to all those times that my mouth was running off on a regular basis. I was causing not many opportunities, but causing so much problems and so much destruction with that. So we get a choice now visiting back. I didn't stay that way. It was an active transformation over 5 years to start transforming, and it's still in the transformation. I got a good foundation. I see it. I'm faster at it, but I'm still rolling with it. And I wanted to show you what I'm learning and what I learned for you guys to go over and to take back to your bedroom this week to start transforming, not to go over and wait. Because I have to ask this question: is your spouse worth it? For me, the first 7 years, I would say yes on the outside, but on the inside, it really wasn't. Now, with almost 14 years in December, I see it is worth it. And I will go over and pursue my doctorate degree with her to go over and to make it worth it. So here's a couple questions I asked. And I also want to ask you this question as you're watching. What did we learn from my case study? What are you learning from what I'm going over and saying? I'm going to share some things, and I would love to go over and hear in the conversation, in the feed, going over and what you're learning in the comments. The first thing I went over and learned, and this one's hard, especially if you're a person like me. If you're more outspoken and you're the person that was called like maybe motor mouth, always talking, chattering, the first thing I had to learn, and I'm always continue learning, is thinking before speaking is huge. You can really destroy somebody by going over and allowing your mind to instantaneously take those thoughts, feelings, make them words, which most people, the quieter people, see that as actions and results and see that as part of the character. And then you're shaping what they go over and see of you. You have to go think it out. I know in the bedroom is supposed to be the most intimate place, but it doesn't mean you spew out everything that you go over and think about. For people that are like me, that you're seeing this video and you're like, I'm the natural talker, I'm the natural speaker, doesn't matter if I'm guy or girl, thinking might be really, really difficult for you. So thinking before you're speaking is huge. The second lesson that I learned is E over I sets the lie, and I over E sets us free. E is emotions, and I is intelligence. When I go over and I feel it, then I speak it, I'm usually setting a lie. I'm usually speaking out of brokenness. I'm speaking out of just what I want in the moment, what my flesh, what my body, what my thoughts want, and I'll set the lie. And that could be a plethora of things, of trying to go get your own way, trying to go over and to manipulate the situation, whatever it is, the majority of the time when you allow your emotions to go over and lead and you intellectually justify saying like, hey, you're being argumentative, you're being demanding, you're being bossy, you're being controlling, like someone states that, and you keep controlling the situation, you keep speaking with your emotions instead of your intellect, you're setting the lie. So now you become those negative things that people say about you within the bedroom or within the living room. And hopefully you got a handle on it by the time the boardroom. Because if you're doing it in the boardroom, you're definitely doing it in the bedroom and the living room because you're comfortable enough with that lie to go live. So we have to go over and learn that we need to use our intelligence. We have to use wisdom. Maybe it's a prayer life or a meditation, or maybe it's books you go over and read, getting a book on emotional intelligence. We need to build our intellectual prowess. Emotional Intelligence is a great book to go over and read. Is that when we allow our intelligence to filter through, and that's a part of thinking before speaking, it sets us free because it might be really difficult to hold the tongue, but once the words come out, they don't go back. The people are hurt, and things keep pressing from there. The next thing I learned in this process and still learning is your junk in your head will come out of your mouth. So, stuff that was in your living room when you were a kid and in your schoolroom, and those hurts and those pains, we typically try to avoid putting them in the living room, but they do spill. But in the boardroom, we definitely don't. But the junk that's in our head will come out of our mouth in one way or another, active or passive. The person that goes over and speaks much like me, the junk's probably going to come out faster. The person that's more quiet and reserved, the junk will eventually come out. It will spill out in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your actions, and your results. And when you have done that, it's too far. So definitely going over in the junk has to be dealt with. Another thing that I realize is that we will hurt the ones we love. So we need to deal with the hurt. If we want to go over and to not hurt the people we love, and that's the natural proclivity when you have a closer relationship, when you have a bedroom intimate relationship with your spouse, no matter if it's cohabitation or marriage, we will hurt the ones that we love. And the person that we're closest to is we're going to hurt the most. So if we not want to hurt them anymore, we need to go over and deal with the hurt. Going from there, the next lesson that I learned is asking for help is better than just avoiding. Especially as my military veteran first responder audience, our helping agencies are growing because we see the hurt. So if you're active duty, there's a military family life consultant. There's also mental health. There's also chaplains. You have the military one source that gives you free 12 sessions. I'm going in session 7 tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I'm still working through things. So the consequences that we think that's in the military and in the Veterans Affairs, typically not. The hardest part is starting that momentum. I know how it feels. You think you can fix it yourself. You think you can pull yourself by your bootstraps. You think it's a small problem, whatever it is. It's typically not. Why wait until explosion day? We did exercises in the military. We do practice. We do training to go over and to deal with the scenarios that come in warfare and also in peacetime and whatever our job is in between. We do that to be proactive and to be ready. So we are ready. But do we do that with our marriages? Typically not. So this is a challenge for you guys and ladies going over and listening, especially as first responders too. We're the front line. We go over and we're the first person to go out there. So we have to be the most sensible, the most emotionally put on and everything else. The most emotionally put on person is the person actually wrestling and dealing with it and being okay for help. Sean Romano, for example, is a great advocate for helping out first responders and whatnot. There's several other people. Houston Gas, one of our guests, great representative helping with the hurts of PTSD. So we need to ask for the help. It's hard at first, but once you break it, like it was weird the first time, virtually going over and consulting with somebody, and I mean, somebody counseling me, and I do consulting. I want you guys to come to me, so I have to be brave enough to go out to ask for help too. Because if we don't, we can't help you go over and thrive. And when you go over and avoid, you're just surviving, and it's just waiting for explosion day. And some people explode quick and some people explode slow, but the explosion will happen. It's either an explosion or an implosion. If we keep avoiding, it will either go in and out or out and then eventually broken. So we need to go ask for the help. And that's what I had to do. Also, looking for help will transform you. Looking in yourself. I really confused myself on this one. Looking in yourself will help you transform from the inside out. When we start going over and introspectively going and looking, and that was what I did that day and those days on forward of what I did. And then also, anytime I do get into an argument again or a conflict or this bedroom uh, friction, that every time I look in, it helps me transform. It's like, all right, maybe I need to use more you are statements. Maybe it's my tone. Maybe it's how I deliver. Maybe it was my attitude. Maybe it was my RBF because my family says I have RBF face. I mean, RBF, which is resting B face. So maybe it's that, and it helps you start transforming from the inside out when you start looking in. I didn't really start looking in huge term until 7 years, and that was 7 years too late. Fortunately, I have a wife that's very redemptive, and I have a God that's very redemptive that goes over and allowed that redemption process to happen. We might not always have that opportunity. We might have to learn through a divorce, but let's not go over and do that again. We don't want to do the repeat and repeat game. I meet so many veterans when I was in the medical field that had second, third, and fourth spouses, and they thought it was always on the outside. What happens is that it's truly most of the time, which is my next point, and I'm saying this to me just as much as I'm saying this to you. You are the biggest problem in your marriage. Point blank. I'm the biggest problem in my marriage. My wife's the biggest problem in this marriage. Your spouse is the biggest problem in the marriage. But in the sense, coming from you, our fingers should never go over and point out. When it points out, it goes over and destroys. You are the biggest problem in the marriage. You can't expect your spouse to fix themselves if you're doing nothing. Example is everything. That's how transformation goes over and goes. It's kind of like when you go over and you're teaching your kids and you go over and say, you need to go over and control your tongue, or hey, you need to control your spending or your finances and whatnot. If you're not doing that, they're never going to go glean off you. If you're the one that's always struggling, you want them to get a better life, there's a few that break the mold and example. But the majority of the time, if you look at a kid and a parent, they look the same because values are caught, not taught. So if you want those values of transformation to be caught within the bedroom, you have to look at yourself as the biggest problem. You can't expect them to transform. You have to start doing the work to go over and do that. And then your shining example as the transformation comes in and then pours out, then they will want to go over and do the stuff that they go over and see. They'll ask to be vulnerable. They'll go over and do that. Even with the counseling I'm doing through now, I mentioned my wife on the things that I'm wrestling with. I'm okay sharing with her. And she starts seeing some things. It's like, hey, she might say, how can I change this to make this better? And all these other types of things. So go on the inside, deal with your biggest problems first. And that's going to transform your bedroom. So at the end of the day, our mouth can be the biggest problem and the biggest opportunity. So our superhero challenge today for jumping in transformation in the bedroom, what is one way for you to change your words, your attitude, or your behavior so you can connect better with your spouse? We love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to go over and connect with you. This is always a conversation, always a dialogue, never a monologue. So those comments are there for you. The superhero challenge is for you. If you're jumping on Podopolo and listening to this on our dynamic interactive podcasting, you can go over and interact with those superhero challenges. And there's daily and weekly challenges for you to help you gamify your podcasting. You can also watch us on the Easy Way Wall and go over and connect with us there too on the Easy Way Wall of Fame. So you have multiple ways to bring the conversation, not just to a listening ear, because we listen to so many books, we listen to so many podcasts. But if we don't interact with it, we don't wrestle it and bring it within, then you might as well just shut this off and never listen again. There's no point if you're not going to go take the information. It's not going to be instant. I'm not expecting true transformation all in one shot. Transformation's a process. If you look it up in the Oxford Dictionary, not a fan of Webster. But anyway, so I'd love for you to go over and wrestle with that. Now, if you're having difficulty going over and wrestling with that, we give 20 minutes free to every single military veteran and first responder. We will have a Calendly fully up, but you can always contact us on Learn and Live. If it's on Facebook, you can contact us on YouTube. We'll give you the connection. If you're on the Easy Way Wall, send me a direct message. If you're on Podopolo, we'll have a chat that's built in. So no matter where you're at, you can connect with us. And if you want to take your marriage transformation to the next level, you can go join our Patreon at patreon.com/thrive-not-survive to basically go over and start your transformation for marriage superhero as low as $5. So that's it for today. So your mouth, is it edifying or destroying? Let us be honest about it and let us start the transformation. I'd love to go see your thoughts and your comments into the feed, wherever you're getting this from. We love you for joining us again tomorrow as Transformation in the Bedroom. We'll cover another topic to help you go transform your life from the bedroom to the boardroom. Thanks for joining. You guys have a good day.